Episode 9, Trou Normand, written by Steve Lightfoot, directed by Guillermo Navarro. The episode opens with a colossal pile of human bodies from decades of murders, all bound together with one recent victim on top. Will recreates the most recent murder of a young man, but following the mental reconstruction, he wakes up to find himself in Hannibal's office, having lost time. With Will in a panic, they deduce that Will drove 3.5 hours there but cannot remember it. Hannibal believes that Will's empathy disorder and his work are resulting in psychological abuse, causing him to disassociate. Abigail Hobbs has a nightmare of a support circle consisting of all of her father's victims, as well as Nicholas Boyle, wishing she had been killed instead of them. Will speaks with Jack Crawford and confirms that he is completely unaware of Will having lost time at the crime scene. Abigail agrees with Freddie Lowndes for her to write a book about her experiences. The FBI science squad discovers that the poll consisted of 17 corpses of mostly wrongful deaths or accidental deaths where murder wasn't discovered to be the cause, the newest being Joel Summers, who Will believes was special to the killer. Will gives a lecture on the corpse poll murders, only to be interrupted by Alana and discover that the lecture hall is empty and he was speaking to an empty room. Alana confirms that she believes she should not pursue her feelings for Will because he is unstable, and he affirms this. Will and Hannibal express their disappointment to Abigail about the book, forfeiting all of their privacy. Will tries to express his care for her, but is somewhat rejected. Hannibal warns that pursuing the book will expose her to an outcome she can't control. Abigail decides to take control of her narrative and digs up Nick Boyle's body. Jack Crawford tells Will, Hannibal and Alana about the discovery of Nick Boyle's frozen body, and wants Abigail to identify the body, much to everyone else's disapproval. Alana accompanies Abigail to the identification, and Jack tries to provoke her into some kind of confession, but she holds her own. Alana, enraged, tells Jack that although Abigail is hiding something, she believes her to be innocent as her suspicions do not extend to Hannibal. Hannibal confronts Abigail about the body and is displeased at the risk she presents to him, but she shows herself to be stronger than he had predicted. The FBI science squad determines that the corpse poll's oldest body and newest body are father and son, but not related by blood. Will and Jack go to see the only possible suspect, Lawrence Wells, who openly confesses to his crimes, having resigned himself to reveal himself towards the end of his life to secure his legacy. But Will reveals to him that whilst Wells believed he was killing the man the love of his life left him for and that man's son, Joel Summers was actually biologically Wells' son, meaning that unbeknownst to him, he murdered his own legacy. Will, unable to sleep, visits Nick Boyle's body and uses his mental reconstruction to envision his death, leading him to work out that his murderer was Abigail Hobbs. Will goes to Hannibal to deliver this revelation, only to be confronted with the truth that he already knew and helped Abigail dispose of the body. Despite his desire for righteousness, Will agrees to keep their secret, as Hannibal explains that the alternative would destroy Abigail's life. Hannibal, Will, Abigail and Freddie Lowndes all have dinner together to discuss their mutual desire to do what is best for Abigail. Afterwards in the kitchen, Abigail reveals that she has figured out that Will knows, but Hannibal reassures her that Will keep their secret, and Abigail finally gives an emotional confession that she was involved in her father's murders, that she helped lure the girls to him to protect her own life. Hannibal vows that he and Will protect her. Welcome to Fate and Circumstance, a Hannibal fan podcast, where I, an autistic person, show a show to my friends who also like the show. I am your host, Felix Fanfaron Fern. These are my co-hosts.
Hello, I am Melisa Suzan at your service.
Hi, I'm Shaira Bambi, at your disservice.
I approve of that. What did y'all think of the episode?
Weird.
You can say that every week.
Yeah, I got so many questions.
I feel so betrayed.
Yeah.
My trust has been betrayed.
Nothing could ever go well in this show. You should know this by now.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm going to be the forever optimist.
That's fair. To get started, then we'll slide all of the important stuff to the side. Actually, first things first. One very small housekeeping thing, which is just in this episode, they refer to the big pole of corpses as a totem pole. So, just to confirm, I will not be using the term totem pole. I probably won't be using it much at all, because thankfully the procedural plot is kind of very cast to the side in this episode. It's a very small part of the episode. But obviously, totem poles are not how they're represented in this episode. I don't think there's any form of malice. However, it is quite unkind to Indigenous peoples, the way that they decided to use that term.
Yes, which is why I called it a monolith.
Yeah, monolith works. I would have gone with corpse pole, because it is technically a pole of corpses. You can call it
I'm
whatever you like.
simple-minded, so I'm like corpse pole.
Yeah, I win with corpse
Body pole.
Body pole. The world's worst pole dancing session.
Stripped pole, not strip pole, but a stripped pole, because they're all naked. I don't know.
That's true. On the top one, that is true.
And ripped part.
So yeah, we'll just put that to the side. People are aware. I don't know if the showmakers are aware, but there was criticism of this episode for that reason. But no big backlash or anything. But it's something worth noting, I think.
Definitely.
But we'll talk about that to begin with. So what did you think of the procedural murder of the week plot?
I don't know. I think it like proper confused me. I think it's the first time I've been a bit like I don't know. I thought when they were showing the little corpse pole, I did think it looked like a bit of a bug on the top, like, you know, with the 6 arms. And Kath said that how the what's it called? The set design people must have had like a lot of fun doing that. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Like today at work, you're going to be putting a load of fake bodies together in a weird contortionist way.
Such a big piece.
Yeah, it must have taken ages.
It's very cool looking.
It was very, very creative. I think I put when I first saw it, I just put my imagination to it. I actually laughed at it when I first saw it. I couldn't help but laugh at it. It looked funny. It looked silly, and I think I got pushed out of the immersion that I just gone, oh, this is really creative.
Yeah, it is.
And that's fair. It's such a big fucking thing.
Mm.
What were your thoughts on the killer? I think his name is Larry something. He's played by Lance Henriksen. Larry Wells.
Is this the dude in the armchair who's like, I'm unarmed?
Yes.
Fucking mood. Absolute boss babe. I liked him.
I liked him too. It was funny. But I also laughed at him as well. I was like, you poor geezer for killing his progeny.
Yeah, Christ, that was wild.
Yeah.
I think it's in a way it's almost a shame it's such a kind of small plot, because he's a very cool killer. But I like the fact that, as we've had with some other episodes, there's the other tie-in to family. I think his situation kind of reflects what's happening with Abigail a little bit, and that he's fucked himself over in terms of his legacy. And we're also dealing with 2 people with a surrogate daughter who they're not actually related to. It's kind of the reverse with him. And them trying to make her life go right, whereas he lost that opportunity because of his own arrogance, essentially.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. The character reminded me of Scott Glenn.
Who?
Scott Glenn, the American actor.
I don't know who that is.
Google.
He's in a lot of Cowboy, and he's also in Sucker.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
He's also in Sucker Punch. But yeah.
I remember the thing I was going to mention. It's not often I mention the name of the episode, because they're normally just kind of straightforward dishes. Like, they're normally a course in a multiple course meal. Sometimes it's a thing, like we had egg. But this one I wanted to look up because I had absolutely no idea what Trou Normand was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea where it is either.
Right? So I was like, okay, I have to Google that, because I always see the name. I'm just like, I have no idea what that is, and I can't from the name tell what it is. I think it's like Normandy hole or something, which isn't great. But what it is, it's not quite, but it's sort of similar to an amuse-bouche a little bit. So it's a pause in between dishes. And it's Calvados based. So normally it's either you have a glass of Calvados, which is an apple brandy, or it's an apple sorbet soaked in Calvados.
Oh,
Which sounds pretty good.
that does sound pretty good. When you said Normandy Hall, I thought like, is it just a Yorkshire pudding?
Right? I was like, I don't know. I have not figured out what the etymology is. I'm sure there is a meaning for the name, but I don't know what it is because I didn't look it up that far. But it sounds nice. So that's cool.
Yeah, it sounds like a palate cleanser for between another meal.
Basically, yeah. Especially with it being like a sorbet, so it's probably quite refreshing, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, that does look good.
Yeah, you can find like pictures of it on Google. It's like, yeah, I would have that between meals. It sounds awesome.
I was trying to figure out the spelling. It looks good. Yeah, it makes sense. It's sorbet and a drink, ice. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
Now I want like a
Holes.
boozy slushy.
I thought you said Normandy Hall. I was like, why would it be Normandy Hall? My brain tonight.
Well, now I have to Google again. Trou Normand.
Oh.
It's the Norman Hall. You're right.
Yeah, a Norman hole. What the fuck? What is
Yeah.
Why?
My brain just thought you said Normandy Hall. I'm not even thinking of Normandy.
I was thinking Normandy hole, but no, not what?
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know. Anyway.
My mouth is salivating. I need to stop looking at this photos.
So we are back on Will's bullshit, unsurprisingly, in this episode.
Yeah.
So I don't expect anyone, as usual, to have any new thoughts on this, 'cause it's an ongoing thing, but I feel like I have to bring it up. Which is, does anyone have any new thoughts on what's going on with Will? From the conversation he has with Hannibal at the start, which is really interesting, Hannibal suggests the idea of it being a disassociation as a result of abuse, and he disagrees with that. And he like holds on to this concept of, well, he's doing the right thing, he's saving lives, therefore it's worth whatever mental stress he's enduring. But Hannibal doesn't agree with that. So do you think Will seems to maybe think it's a physical thing. Hannibal definitely thinks it's a mental thing. What do you think?
Well, I think it's quite obvious that it's both in a way. Like it's affecting him in both ways. Because if he's just quote unquote like opening his eyes and then he's randomly somewhere and he doesn't understand why, and he's literally driven himself there, that's pretty physical. But also fucked that something can do that to him. I did have a bit of a thing of like, it's interesting because it's clear that he's like blacking out, which I guess is disassociating in a way, or like a part of disassociating. I assume. I don't think I've experienced much of it myself.
It can be.
Yeah, so I feel like it's interesting because when people say, "Oh, I blacked out," I was like, that's usually a cover up for something, like when people are drunk or something and they're like, oh, I blacked out, I cheated, whoopsie. Like, I feel like maybe like you said, like we never see what happens in these moments. What if he's, as he's getting deeper into putting himself into the shoes of the murderers, and he always talks in a way of, I did this, I do that, and he's acting as the murderer, doing all the actions that they are doing as he's describing it, but he's using like possessive, like, is it possessive pronouns? Like I, you, I, me, mine. That's what they're called, right?
I don't know.
No, I literally don't know.
No idea. But he's saying like, I did this, me, like, I wanted him to see all of this stuff. So like, I was just thinking about it as I was watching it, and he's like really putting himself into the role. What if he's doing more than that? What do we know what he's doing when he is, oh, all of a sudden I'm back to myself? What are you doing when you're not your normal self, so to speak? Because he's been putting himself into, the position of murderers. What if he's actually, is there a potential that he's doing something within these moments? That's the first time I thought of it.
Yeah. I think that you're kind of going on a correct assumption as well, because that's what Hannah was worried about as well. because Hanny says, "What if you wake up to a monolith of your own making, or body of your own
Yes.
making?" So there's a thing, and I don't think they would likely mention it if he did something outwardly stupid, like he'd become Hobbs for that moment, killed someone, came back. But yeah, he's definitely not having a fun time. I unfortunately first time laughed at the whole scene. I felt so sorry for him, but I also laughed at him. I feel bad.
Just me over here being emotional over it, and you're just laughing at it.
Oh, yeah, but he's really not letting himself admitting it, and nor is he letting Jack know the full extent. I thought Jack, like there's other scenes, like I thought Jack is quite an asshole, but I think Jack would be a lot more lenient if Will was just a little bit more truthful to what he's going through.
I don't know. I understand Will's point of view because he doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
I think he's worried that he's kind of losing his sanity, and he doesn't want to admit that to himself, let alone other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why he's kind of only genuinely exploring it with Hannibal. And now, of course, he's being a little bit more open about having nightmares as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the only time I think we really see him during a sort of hallucination is when he's sleepwalking down the road and he sees the stag. But we also know that the stag is something he experiences during his dreams. But a lot of these worsening lost time moments are not, it seems, quite the same as sleepwalking because we don't see what happens.
No.
I think the idea of him potentially doing something during those times is really interesting. And yeah, the conversation with Jack is very interesting because it confirms that at least during some of that time, he was functioning normally.
Yeah.
We also know that he drove to Hannibal's office safely. So at some point during this lost time moment, he is functioning as a normal person. We've seen him in his classroom when he missed his appointment, he was just sitting there and imagining Abigail. So we know it's not always like that.
Yeah.
So in theory, during some of his lost time, he is doing stuff. We just don't know the extent of it, and it's very weird.
Yeah, I think it's a bit questionable as well because it kind of really makes you think like, what is he doing? Like, is he up to something? Because it really makes you question everything because I feel like there's only so much someone can take before they snap, and in what way they snap is a bit like subjective.
Yeah. And to answer your question, do I think it's mental or physical? I don't know. Maybe Hannibal going towards the idea that it's physical. It's the abuse that he's. I wouldn't say it's Jack's abuse because Will's a grown person and Will is literally like, yeah, sure, Jack can goad him into it so much, but Will is his own person and he can go, you know what, this isn't right. I need to look away from it. It's causing me trouble, and though it's saving me lives, he can remove himself so he doesn't hurt himself or hurt others, as Hannibal said. And I really also loved Hannibal going, "You're my friend, Will. I don't care about."
Yeah, that was a little slip in, wasn't it? It was just like testing the waters, like, "You're my friend, Will," and then his face, like looking at him, like, "Are you gonna correct me? Are you gonna be like, no?"
Yeah. Like, oh, cute.
That's a big quote in this episode.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that moment because it kind of Hannibal lets slip his priorities or his motivations a little bit, I suppose.
Why wouldn't his motivations be his friend? Like, that doesn't, like, yes, we know he's the killer, but like that's what we would be like, wouldn't we, towards Will? We wouldn't be like pushing him towards.
Well, we don't entirely know because he also kind of has a friendship with Jack as well.
He does, but like with your friends, you would be like, okay, you like with my friend, I would literally go up to Jack and be like, if Jack's my friend and Will was my friend, I'd be like, Jack, I'll straight up to Jack, like, you're fucking killing him. You're causing him. Let him go. Force him to like take some time off and like leave the scene out. Yes, you want to win. You want the wins. You want to catch the bad guys, save people, but like save your colleague, save your friend.
But that's the interesting thing. Hannibal doesn't do that.
Yeah, Hannibal
When
doesn't
he's
do that.
when he's with Jack, he talks about Will,
That's true. Yeah.
and not necessarily in a way that's in Will's best interest.
Oh yeah, that
Because
is true.
he's quite encouraging of Jack. And then when he's with Will, he does the opposite.
I think it's a control thing, like of just again controlling the situation and how people are around him to cover his own back. Because I think as much as we want to believe and invest our feelings and our hearts into the fact that, you know, Hannibal does feel different. Oh, he's this, you know, human body eating person, but he has a heart. He loves Will. His exception is to this person, his exception is to that person. But really and truthfully, that's how, you know, psychopaths and manipulators work. They will make you feel a certain way, and in a way he's manipulating us as the audience, because it's making us think he feels a certain way or he's different, and we want that for him because we see him and we're invested in him as the character. But the way he is so easily, like you said, able to talk about the other people and not necessarily in their best interest specifically, that is him looking out for himself, because at the end of the day he needs to be able to keep doing what he does in his world to survive, and he needs to make sure that he's in control of everything or has a good idea and perception of what people are thinking.
Yeah, I would agree with that entirely, essentially.
Yeah, maybe it'll just really easy for serial killers to get killed. I mean, I'd hug bears and stuff. Okay, I'd win a Darwin Award for that. But yeah.
So let's veer away from Hannibal for a moment to Will in his lecture room and Alana catching him having yet another hallucination.
Oh yeah.
Which, to be fair, that is a hallucination we see. That is not, I would say, a nightmare. So actually, I'd say that's an exception. That is one we see.
Yeah.
But we don't know if it's a hallucination and then he loses time and sees Alana, or if that's something that actually happened, then he loses time and sees Alana, if that makes sense. We don't know if he imagined that or if it was earlier in the day and then he loses time, which I think is probably more likely, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I think that's probably more likely. We don't see what happens during the lost time moment, but it's kind of open to interpretation.
Yeah.
But thoughts on his relationship with Alana and whether or not how she's now speaking to him is doing the right thing after what happened between them before?
I love her honesty. I love her honesty, but she brings out, not only does her honesty, like, lets people know where they stand, lets Will knows where they stand, lets herself know where she stands. Her honesty brings out honesty in others, especially Will. And I think she's a really good friend for that, like, really great friend of that, because, like, Will doesn't need to bed Alana to have Alana as a paddle, or to have a friend to help him through this thing. Like, Alana's an amazing friend. You can still probably reach out to Alana in that way and still be honest about your feelings. That I did feel like, ouch, for Paul Wills, like, you're unstable, so I can't date you. But that's also very honest, very good, and like, I understand that, and I think more people would benefit being like Alana.
I don't know, I have really mixed feelings about it, because the fact that I know how you said that she was a good friend, she was being a good friend, but I think being a good friend, if she really knew about herself and the way that she is and all of these things, she wouldn't have even kissed him in the first place, in my opinion, because I think it was a bit shit of her to kind of indulge in this and then be like, oh no, I don't even want to do anything else. Like, I know it's definitely like her prerogative, like she can definitely feel something in a moment and then leave it. But I think Will literally himself was like, you don't need to overcomplicate this, and he was just kind of I don't know. I think he was being very like, this can just be a casual thing. I don't know. Like, I'm just feeling it how it goes. And then she kind of was just like really over contemplating it, which is very relatable for sure, especially as a queer person. But then then after that, to go to him and be like, oh, I have feelings for you. Again, even if he was saying that it was casual for him, it could have meant like more. The fact that she had said that he had feelings for him, for all we know, he could have like thought about that for ages and kind of got him a bit like happy and excited. And then she's like, oh, but you're unstable and I'm not going to be with you whilst you're unstable. And I'm like, okay, fine. But like, I feel like this has become way more complicated than it needed to be. I'm really like, what the fuck? Because it was also like tickling our pickle a little bit as well, because she was kind of like, oh yeah, I have feelings for you. And we were like, oh, okay, cool. And then, oh, but I'm not going to be with you. And I get it. I definitely get it, because like, while he's, you know, in this way, she's always going to have that interest in him, like she's always mentioned. And maybe that can be a stick up his ass to be like, you know, maybe I should get some extra help. Maybe I should get sorted out. Maybe I should be monitoring how much of myself I'm exposing to this job. All of those good things. But I think it also just went out. I don't know. I just feel like there's a bit of like both sides to it. Such a Libra, man. I'm just like, I get it. I think it was like good and bad. I don't know. That's why I'm so mixed about it, because I'm like, but it was also meant to just be. It was just a kiss, babe. How did it end up like this? It was only a kiss. It was only a kiss. Yeah, exactly.
I think all points of view are completely valid.
Yeah,
They're both exploring, and
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone is wrong here. I think both points of view are totally valid, and sort of as Will with the protagonist, we're kind of led to empathize with him. So
yeah, that's true.
Again, I think from his point of view, both things are valid as well, because he cares about her and he wants to be with her in some form, but can't be. So we're kind of like, yay Alana and boo Alana at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think both make complete sense.
Yeah. Like, I don't like to boo other women when they like deny people. Like, I really dislike it. It's like, oh no, just gonna be like, yeah, no, they're positive.
Oh no, I totally get that, but like, I don't know. We're on the one hand, it's nice to try and sort of boost and support female characters when there are not enough of them, and not enough good female characters. But also just because of a narrative, at some point we're not going to like everyone. Think about how we speak about Freddie Lounds.
I like Freddie Lounds now.
Now you do. That's not how it started.
I disliked her because she got people killed. That's the reason.
You'll all be on my team eventually. Wait until I win you around to Chilton. Just you wait.
I'm not there yet.
Give it time. The one thing I would say about Alana in that scene that made me incredibly happy is the hug that she gives Will at the end.
Yeah,
like
adorable.
I think you could definitely think on one hand, it's not necessarily a kind decision to initiate physical contact with someone you've just rejected. Yeah. I think that is also a fair interpretation. However, he's unstable and having hallucinations, and to be honest, I think the one thing that man needs is for someone to fucking hug him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he like kind of breaks a little bit at the end because he really needs a fucking hug.
Yeah.
So I'm very glad that Alana hugs him.
Yeah, maybe that's my bias. I just seen that hug. I was like, oh, keep friends.
Can't hate that. He needed that.
Mm-hmm.
There's one little bit of cut dialogue in that moment, which I quite like, and I kind of wish had been in. At one point, Alana says, I can't be what I want to be for you, but I am here. Which I think is a really nice line.
Oh, yeah.
Very queer-coded, actually.
It is,
like,
yeah.
And also, like, oh, I could still be your friend, and then hug you after, like, they had a whole, like, kiss, and then a weird intermediate moment of, like, what are we? No. Are we doing anything? No. And a bit of an argument. Very queer-coded.
Both Will and Alana being queer-coded, I wonder why that could be. Anyway. Not to give anything away.
Hi, Brian Fuller.
Hi, Brian Fuller. Thank you for making everything.
Oh, yeah, hi, big fan. Big fan.
Big fan.
Massive tower fan. So, let's go on to the inevitable that is Abigail. There are a lot of big Abigail revelations in this episode. Before I go on to the first talking point, I just wanted to let you know that in the scene between Will, Hannibal, and Abigail in her hospital room, she was a little bit more sassy towards Will in the script. They talk directly towards each other a little bit more.
Ooh.
And there's a line where they're talking about the book, and Will is like, "You're important now," basically, and she says, "Now that I'm writing a book." And Hannibal says, like, warningly, "Abigail," and Will says, "I can't help feeling some responsibility for you." But my favourite line that they cut is when Will says that things are changing for him too. She says, "Yes, things change. For instance, you're here for a change."
I wish they didn't cut that.
Christ.
Yeah, it's a lot more sassy. The idea of Will being the absent father is much more present in the script than it is in the show.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so true though. It's like, what
Yeah,
have you doing?
Hannibal is the good daddy, and Will is the worried, doesn't want to be around her because he thinks he'll break her, essentially, absent father.
Yeah.
Which I love.
God.
Yeah, they're fucking awful murder family. So, Abigail digs up Nicholas Boyle. So, do you think that she was right to do that? Because what she's basically doing is taking away the possibility of him being discovered so that it's not outside of her control anymore. Do you think that was a good idea?
No, because the whole thing confuses me. Like, why would you do that? Like, I was, as you said that in my head, it just wasn't making sense. I feel like she's just scared and she's young and she has no fucking idea what's going. Like, poor girl's been through a lot. Like, there's so much that's been happening. Yeah. And I think she's just panicking and acting irrationally and doesn't know what to do and just needs a bit more guidance. Maybe not from murderers. You know.
Yeah, maybe not from Hannibal, who's clearly trying to kill other, who's clearly killing other people.
Yeah, I mean,
But
beggars
Daddy.
can't be choosers. Yeah. You know.
What do you think, Shaira?
I think she was trying to take some control back, especially after Hannibal's line previously. I totally forgot the line, but I know he said something to her. I think she was trying to get some control back, and valid as well. But I also think she put herself in the firing line of Jack, which was very stupid, because the more that she's in the firing line of Jack, the more Jack figures out, and the more Alana sees Abigail's mask clip. But however, that whole scene after they discovered it, she is definitely much more stronger than she's let on previously. In the fact that she's willing to do this, she's willing to dig up someone's corpse and act point blank in front of people that she didn't kill him. So
Yeah. So from my point of view, I do think that she's acting not irrationally, but carelessly, because she is young and traumatized. But I do also think that she is trying to take control of the situation. She's spoken to Freddie Lowndes, and suddenly there's this concept of her telling her story, and the realization that there are parts of it that could be revealed without her consent. So what she's trying to do is take control of the narrative and be like, well, if he gets discovered now and I answer the FBI's questions now, I will never have to worry that someone's going to suddenly dig him up. Because if she doesn't dig him up, she's going to be constantly worrying that someone's going to find him eventually. Mm-hmm. So she's trying to get rid of that from happening. However, she doesn't do it consulting Hannibal. And therefore, Hannibal is now having his own little realization that, yeah, Abigail is stronger than he thought she was, and potentially maybe not as easy to manipulate. There's a great little series of script details in the scene where Jack Crawford tells Will, Alana, and Hannibal about the body, which I want to tell you just because they're so good. Nice. So, in between all the dialogue, there are constant descriptions of what's going on with Hannibal.
Nice, yes.
So it starts with, they all look surprised. Hannibal hides his shock and concern. Alana speaks first. Then it's Hannibal doesn't move, but his senses are on high alert now.
Oh.
Hannibal follows this with interest. Hannibal is tense. Will looks angry. And then the last one is, on Hannibal, the most to lose if Abigail isn't strong.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's she's done something potentially for herself, but also potentially fucked up a lot more, considering the other person who has power in that situation is the person who knows what she's done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I'm like, it doesn't make sense at all, and she really hasn't thought this through. But who else would, at any age, let alone a very young child, going through all of that trauma?
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Yeah. And also, I think Freddie's goading.
Yeah.
Well,
Freddie knows something's going on.
Yeah, Freddie knows something's going on, and I think that, like, I can tell that there's something out that she's not that she's there for. She's not there for just to reveal the story for Abigail. She wants Abigail to slip up in a way, and the best way to do it is, talking more instead of just hiding in the shadows, which Hannibal would much rather end. But Abigail is like, no, well, you know what? Maybe grasp my story. It's like, yeah, but people just forget it. Like, move places.
I agree with what you think about Freddie Lowndes' intentions. I think that Freddie Lowndes suspects Abigail in the exact same way that Jack Crawford does.
Yeah.
Because Freddie Lowndes, despite how she may seem, is incredibly intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think her real scoop is the hope that if she coerces Abigail into telling her story, she'll find the plot holes and fill them in.
Yeah.
That will be Freddie's real book, is outing Abigail Hobbs, is my best guess.
Is that a guess, or is that a...
no, it's a guess.
Okay.
that is my interpretation. It is not a spoiler.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no, that's what I think Freddie is actually doing.
Yeah.
So, because we're talking about Freddie, I'm just going to ramble a tiny bit about the dinner. Which we see a little bit of, but specifically because Freddie Lowndes has a salad. So the others are having roasted tenderloin, and you can see in the scene that it looks quite bloody, but the blood looks a little bit off, and that's because it's a pomegranate reduction. So to make it look more muddy. Janice Poon did manage to get them all medium rare. She was worried that she wouldn't, because she had to cook a shit ton of them. As you do, having to constantly cycle through them. The salad, Janice Poon tried to make it look as foreboding as possible. So the white asparagus she used, because it kind of looks like finger bones.
Yeah.
And she cut part of the stalks to be thumbs, so it looks a little bit like part of a hand.
Of course, if Hannibal's cooking it, he'd probably do something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It can't just be a normal salad.
Yeah.
She used lotus root, which she said looked like Munch scream faces. And she didn't mention this, but she uses candy cane beets as well as yellow beets. And I personally think the candy cane beets, which are striped red and white, look a bit like marbled meat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other plating thing she did, which is not on the salad but it's on the other plates, is she used bird heads are on all of the plates.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, the roasted tenderloin.
So they're chicken skulls, and she had difficulty finding them. She was kind of like, you get loads of chickens, so what happens to all of the heads?
Yeah.
So she managed to find a woman in Chinatown who sold her a bag of chicken heads, and she demeated them all herself. So she had to boil them and get the flesh off of all of them. And she mentioned that during the scene, I haven't got her blog up, so I'm going off my memory at the moment.
No worries.
So obviously when they do the next take, they swap in the next plate of food. And someone I can't remember what it's called, but you'll get members of staff who are only there for a day helping on set. And the person who was there on that day was chucking out the entire plate, which meant that they'd thrown out 40 odd skulls.
Oh my god.
And yeah, they just lost them, so she ended up with 4. She managed to save 4 and just managed to get them cycling. So thankfully there are skulls in the shot.
Okay. Phew.
So that was cool.
Poor her. She probably overworked in those scenes, but yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm sure the member of staff didn't mean any harm, but also, oh god.
Yeah, oh god. Cooking is difficult. Cooking that many things is difficult.
Yeah, they go through so many meals. It's insane how much they have to actually cook and prepare for every episode.
Wild.
It's very cool. But
and imagine reshoots.
Yeah. Yeah, my god. So, I want to ask, because I want to know, did you foresee Abigail's involvement in the murders? Did you think that was going to be the case? We know Jack thought it was the case, but no one else seemed to. And do you think she should feel guilty about it?
She betrayed my trust. I feel so betrayed. I will search on Will and Alana's corner and Hannibal's corner. I thought that the whole part with Nicholas was a complete accident, and Nicholas attacked her. So, like, why should she's in a traumatized state right now? Like, why should she be? Why should she pay for her dad's mistakes? The episode that happened, and I completely agree with Honey. Like, yes, if it was discovered that she accidentally killed Nicholas, that the whole world would crucify her, and so would Jack, because Jack is finally anyway. But then I find out in this last episode that nope, it was all wrong. I was I think she should feel some guilt. I believe, like, she should feel some guilt, and at the same time, it's such a fucked up situation, right? Like,
yeah,
like with her dad. Like, I don't think anyone in their right mind would have like any clue of what to do, like who to go to, like even going to the police. What, there's a fear of like, what if you get what if your dad comes for you? It's like, Christ. Like, at the same time, it's like yes, she's a murderer, she needs to pay her time, but they're like, fucking hell, how do you navigate that?
well, she was, abused, she was manipulated, so there would have been some sort of lenience within that. She obviously would have, like, if it would have gone differently, she would have had to have sort of play some sort of time, like you said, but it would be significantly less, obviously, than the father, because obviously he's the adult in the situation. She is a minor. Is she under 18? Is she 18?
19 at that point, but we don't know how long he was killing girls for.
So, okay, so arguably, maybe majority of it, if not at least some of it anyway, would have occurred when she was a minor and continued on. So, like, she still would have been able to have an adult conviction, but would have been a lot less considering the dynamic, which is why after like a first few episodes in, I was very unsure. After sort of knowing the dynamic and just sort of generally knowing how it kind of goes, I thought, when we were seeing the scenes of her dad and her and the animals, like her showing how she guts an animal, I think that was like a little bit of a play on things. I think the imagery that we saw was animals, but I don't think it was actually animals in the actual time that it happened. I think it was the girls. I think that's when I sort of like started thinking, I was like, the way that he's, looking at her, telling her to do stuff, and he's like really scared and stuff. And like, fair enough, you can be like that about an animal. It's a bit weird, but also they kind of live in that environment. So I was like, maybe it's not really that weird unless it's not actually an animal. That's just me going really deep into it. But after those first few episodes, I started to think, they're not really giving much away, and it's very, plausible that, she didn't know a lot of things. I think maybe she definitely didn't know that they were eating the kids. I don't know. Maybe where she was helping gut them, maybe she did know, or
so you believe that she actually helped gut them as well?
Yeah, I think.
Well, I will say we don't know that.
Yeah, I understand where you get that from, because I think that episode she had a hallucination at one point that she was gutting the actual girls instead of the deer.
Well, she imagines the corpses, but I don't think she ever actually guts the girls.
That's, like I said, that's just me taking like a bit of a deep interpretation of it, of like a double imagery thing. But I think as the earlier episodes went on, I thought it was probably a little bit impossible that she wasn't helping, just by the way that the way that which we saw him reacting to her, and the way that he would have this like dominance and assertion over her, which was just a bit more than just, father-daughter kind of thing. I just thought that the situation as is, he's luring in young girls to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
Who else are you going to use to lure in a young girl of the same age as your daughter?
Yeah.
So I kind of thought after a few episodes in, I was like, I see that they're going down a route of she doesn't know anything, but I thought it was probably very unlikely. So when she said, "Oh, I helped him," I was like, yeah, that does actually make quite a bit of sense. In terms of, do I feel sorry for her or should she feel guilty? Well, yeah, she should feel guilty. I think yes and no, because she knows right from wrong, obviously, just as a normal human being. However, her reality of what's right and wrong was very much distorted by the authority figure in the dynamic. She was abused, she was manipulated, and that's not on her at all. She is the younger person, she is the child in the situation, so therefore in terms of that regard, none of it is on her. However, she did have a part in helping a crime, so I guess there is a sort of as long as she knows that it's wrong, then I guess it's fine. If she didn't have any remorse or kind of was like, oh yeah, but it's not really a bad thing or whatever, then I'd be like, okay, she should feel a bit more guilt. Guilt, I think, is a bit of a strong word, to be honest, in this kind of situation. I think I feel for her. I feel for her very badly because, again, like I said, it's all down to the dynamic of the two of them. If it was more like a partnership and she willingly was like, I want to do this, I want to help, I want to actually commit the murders, then sure, definitely she should feel very guilty. But the fact that she was manipulated, being made to do things that she didn't want to do, probably believing that she maybe did want to do it in terms of, oh, I'm just helping my dad, very fucked up.
She was going to get killed otherwise.
Yeah, but even still, there's exactly that. There's so many layers to it, and I still don't really understand that. Why does he want to kill her in the first place, and therefore he has to kill all these other girls to fill his hole of wanting to kill his daughter? It doesn't make sense to me. It's really weird.
So Will's theory in the first episode is essentially that her dad has such an intense love for her, bordering on obsession, that he's terrified of losing her. She's getting older. She's getting to the age where she's looking into college. She's 19, so 18 you leave high school. And he doesn't want to lose her. So to deal with that feeling, he has to kill girls like her as almost like a surrogate daughter. That's just essentially how him as a psychopath is dealing with the impending threat of losing the person he's obsessed with.
Right. So involving yourself in crime and having you taken away from your daughter is the solve in this, babe. That was very well thought out.
Psychopaths aren't necessarily logical. And when I say psychopath, I mean in the TV show version of a serial killer, not an actual psychopath.
No, I got you. But I just think it's... I feel like because it's so unfathomable, I think maybe... I feel like we're going to have a lot more unravel about it, and I feel like there's going to be some twists and turns where we're like, oh my god, I didn't know that. Because at the moment, I can't figure it out in my brain. And usually I can figure things out or come to a bit of a thought process to eventually get to that point. The fact that I can't, though, is a good thing, and I enjoy it. So the fact that I can't figure out, in my head, I'm like, but there's got to be a bit more of a reason of why he wanted to do this, or there's got to be some sort of other motive that we don't know about. That's what's in my head. But I'm enjoying that. I don't want to be able to figure it out. I want to be surprised.
I can relate to that. I'm one of those people who works things out in things far too quickly, and I can't help it. That's just what my brain does. And I couldn't in this show at all.
Oh, good.
And it's a nice break for your brain to just be like, what?
Same. I figure things out way too quickly. And in shows. And yeah, it's really nice to figure everything out. Also, I'm kind of like being a little bit more naive because I just want to believe more about Hannibal and I want to believe the characters. Like I just
Yeah, that's true. I blame it on puzzle games. I really love the Professor Layton series. I love playing puzzle games, like Who Done It stuff, Nancy Drew, all of it.
I just have a weird brain.
That too.
I will say that when I first watched the show, I did not guess that Abigail was involved because I believed Will.
yeah, I believe Will.
Yeah, I believed in like how emotionally invested he was in her not being involved.
Yeah.
And you know, Jack being quite authoritative and a bit of an arsehole. I was like, well, he's probably not right then.
Yeah, that's the only reason that I didn't. Sorry to interrupt. That's the only reason
it makes you not want to believe that she's done it, doesn't it?
Because I was like, oh yeah, I want to believe this, so it's probably not the case. That's why that's what my brain was doing. Sorry, Karen.
It's so good. With the guilt thing, yeah, personally, so she's guilty in the sense that she's involved. However, to our limited knowledge, we don't know all the details. What we are told is that she was the lure, so her only involvement was basically being bait. And assisting in that manner. I think, given her knowledge of what her father was doing, as we must assume that she knew what he was doing when she lured the girls. I don't think that she should experience necessary guilt. I think she will naturally, but no, I don't think she's responsible for it because she is young. She's 19, but she's still a teenager. Her brain is still developing. And if her father is obsessed with her that much and she's aware that if she doesn't help, she will be killed, I think that's an abusive enough situation that she is not responsible for what she's being forced to do.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of revise what I said about guilt. Like when I meant that she should feel guilty, I think like she should feel some remorse about what she did, like what she's doing now. I don't think she should feel any more remorse than she is. But yeah, otherwise, agree with you all. She was in an abusive relationship, not believe, but she was in an abusive dynamic with her father, and like she couldn't do anything about it, unfortunately. Well, she could do little thing about it because she wouldn't be able to do something in that position. Well, you wouldn't be able to think of a solution in that position.
I think she does feel remorse as well. However, it's really hard to say with Abigail because on the one hand, she's had nightmares and she acts remorseful, but she's also a liar and a manipulator. So it's very hard to know exactly with Abigail what the extent of her remorse is.
Yeah.
Bit of a mystery with that, I think.
Bit of a mystery.
So what do you think her involvement says about the other characters? Because now we can kind of take a step back and look at what they all thought leading up to this, like what we said with Jack. So Jack has been right since the beginning. Alana is suspicious, has always been suspicious, always has known that that Abigail is manipulative, but she's so trusting of Hannibal that she won't believe it. And Will is in complete denial. So what do you think that says about them as characters? Like, does that make you rethink them at all? Like the fact that we now know that Jack was right?
It made me feel rethink Jack. Yeah, 100%. All of them made me rethink Jack. It made me rethink Will as well, where I was way too trusting of Will's intuition in understanding who isn't a killer. Maybe because he's so good at finding killers. That it was just I was so invested in him being right, and then Jack came up, like I said, Jack came out of a bit of an asshole. This is just this episode. I was started to understand Jack more through the episode with his wife and stuff like that, and I was like, you know what, maybe Jack is seeing things more clearly than most, because his head feels like on the right space. Yes, he has such a burden with his burden, or not. I say burden for him, but it is a bit of a burden. It's more of a burden on his wife. But he's such a burden with everything that's going on in his life. He's still able to keep this kind of cool. Obviously, we don't see anything else. That's why Jack's been. That's why we should be more trusting of Jack, since he's able to like keep his life together and keep that from clouding his judgment, unlike what we see with Will, with Alana, with Hannibal and Abigail. Otherwise, Hannibal and Alana, I think, has my opinion of them hasn't changed. Alana is just Alana is very sweet, and she's like the protective mum of all of them. So like, yeah, she's going to continue to be that. And then Hannibal's doing Hannibal things, being manipulative as always.
Yeah, I think it's strongly implied, just to clarify for anyone listening, that Hannibal has known since the start as well.
Yep, Hannibal's just playing the long game, and there's surprises for him that he doesn't know that's going to come up, but he's rethinking his strategy at that point. Like, weirdly, I'm both critical of Hannibal and but at the same time, like, I really want him to win, even though he's the villain. But I'm also like, you're the villain. You should get reprimanded.
I don't know if I necessarily think of anyone in a different way, actually. I think it's further sort of established the characters of, like, good versus bad, if, like, you want to put it simply. Like, I think it just, to me, when I feel like people are non-suspecting of people, I think it just kind of further proves their innocence in a way. More thinking of Will and Alana, like, I think they're both just doing their job to the best they can, but also when their feelings are involved, they sort of want to see the best in someone.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that neither of them really sort of expect anything of Abigail within this regard, I think just kind of further instates the kind of people that they are as characters, which is quite nice. I think Jack is a bit of a tricky one, because he's one of those where it's like, yes, maybe his methods are a bit questionable, and some things I maybe don't agree with are a bit harsh, but he is right, and he's very good at his job. And I think that's a reflection of how many years he's been doing it, how a lot of experience he knows, all the different kind of ways to, like, question somebody and get to the bottom of, you know, a problem or an investigation and things like that. And I think that just shows how skilled he is at his work and what he does. However, is the fact that, you know, he was showing a dead body to Abigail when, you know, even though she did kill him, it was accidental, because he was about to come onto her and she just panicked. And she definitely could have argued it as self-defense. I think if Hannibal didn't come in, if someone else came in and she was like, they're visibly scared and everything, and like she said it was like self-defense, given the fact that there was this whole thing with her dad beforehand, probably wouldn't have looked good in public media. However, I think in reality of it, I think she definitely would have been able to be like, it was self-defense, I was fucking scared.
He also didn't have a weapon.
That's true. That's true. I don't know. I feel like it wouldn't have been as bad, but you know, it was still something. She was scared. It happened. It was very traumatic. Seeing that dead body probably wasn't nice, and the fact that he was kind of treating her almost as if, I mean, you know, you treat every criminal the same way, just because they're an age or a gender or anything else doesn't necessarily matter. But the fact that he was just like, no, I'm going to keep it open, keep it uncovered, and show you, and you're going to answer these questions whilst you're looking at it, because he's doing it as a taunting thing to see how she responds. And do I think that was fucked up? Yeah, kind of. However, it did work. I can't lie, it did work. And maybe I am a little bit changed about Jack, but I do think the way he goes about things is a bit iffy. But I can't argue that he is good at what he does, and he is a good guy. Too long didn't read.
Yeah, a nail is a nail to a hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was essentially my thoughts when I first saw it. I was kind of like, I assumed Jack was just being an asshole. And when that happened, my brain had to be like, oh, fuck, okay, should maybe actually listen to what Jack is saying a bit more, and not just assume that he's, like, has a one-track mind, and it's actually more of a reason. He's actually potentially just a very good sleuth.
Yeah.
I think he just sometimes the way in which he does things kind of gives off a vibe that he cares more about the job and solving the crime more than other things, which I think can be maybe a bit understandable when you're really passionate about your work and the job that you do, and it essentially is saving lives, and the main thing is you don't want any more people to get hurt or done wrong, so that's why you're on a bit of a time pressure to sort of save humanity. But I think it's a bit of a two-way thing. I think sometimes it gives, care a little bit more about the people around you or have a bit more compassion, but also can't lie that he doesn't, get to the bottom of it and doesn't get the right truth in the end.
Yeah. I love Jack, but in terms of Abigail, I don't want him to win because he will crucify Abigail, and I don't believe Abigail deserves that level of animosity. I think she should be treated with a bit more compassion, considering of what she'd been through.
That's the thing. I think he sees a criminal or a murderer as a murderer, and that's it, which is what it's giving at the moment. Because I think if, like you said, like we say, we see it as, yes, she did wrong, but she was in a very unique situation, and she shouldn't be reprimanded to that degree at the very least. And I think it's interesting that he's just kind of seeing her as a murderer, and like I said, not caring about the fact that she's quite young, and just going in, showing her a dead body, and just being like, answer my questions. I'm suspicious of you.
Yeah. Like you said, a nail is a nail to a hammer.
Yeah.
I think, in a way, Jack almost kind of represents why Will can't do what he wants to do. Will enjoys the feeling of being righteous and being pushed into saving lives, but ultimately he's breaking because he can't do what Jack does. Jack is equipped to do that. Jack is one-track minded enough to focus on one thing and go for it without allowing anything else to enter his mind, and that's why he's good at it. It might come across quite badly, but that's why he's very good at it, and that's why Will probably isn't.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think Will was the biggest surprise for me as well, because it suddenly brought in that doubt of, on the one hand, I should listen to Jack. Jack is actually very smart. But then on the other hand, what does that say about Will? Which isn't that he's not smart or not observant, but that's how dangerous his denial is.
His empathy is. I disturb you.
No, that's all good. It adds more credence to why he hasn't sussed out Hannibal as well.
Yeah.
He's far too emotive, he's far too empathetic, and ultimately it gets in the way of him being able to do this job he wants to do. And again, shows that he's maybe not as suitable for it as he and Jack think that he is, because he's going to allow stuff like that to happen, apparently.
Yeah, he can't not be impartial.
Yeah, Jack's completely right about him not being impartial, So... what does Hannibal get out of keeping Abigail's secrets, especially now that he knows that she's possibly less easy to manipulate than he thought she was?
Baby trap.
There is that element, baby trap. Do you want to expand on baby trap?
Baby trapping Will. See, we all joke about this where we're saying that Abigail is a baby trap for
You
Will.
say I'm joking when I say it. I'm not joking.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's called them fathers in this episode.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. He's definitely trying to use Abigail against Phil, but I think there's also another reason, and that other reason for me specifically is his cannibal room that he's putting together.
Of course,
which I'm never going to not mention. But I think. Well, I think he has this fascination for family as well, Hannibal. So Abigail fulfills that parenthood and for him, while Will fulfills that kind of partnership for him. So I think that's his main motive. And obviously, I think he's just really interested in some people, and Abigail interests him as much as Will does.
I think because it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Like, I think he likes predictability, and like I said, like I always say, that he likes to be able to control the narrative, control how people think of him and what they think, or at least know what they think, so that he can make his moves cautionary around that. But I think when someone sort of challenges that, he's like, okay, nice challenge or potential dinner.
I will say that I won't give my answer to this one.
Oh.
Because it would. I have too much knowledge on this topic to say anything that wouldn't go into spoiler territory. So I'll revisit this later.
Okay.
Okay, valid.
So let's go into the last talking point, which is kind of connected to this, which is that Hannibal places a lot of trust in Will in this episode. So the scene with him and Will talking about what Abigail did is incredibly interesting and was another big surprise for me, because not only do we learn that Will was in denial, or I would definitely say he was in denial, not that he ultimately didn't know. I don't think he's stupid enough to not on some level know. But he's agreeing to essentially remain in denial, because he's all about righteousness and justice and doing the right thing, but he doesn't turn around and say he's going to out Hannibal and Abigail. So that's really interesting to me. So Hannibal allows that to happen. Hannibal, apart from Abigail, has generally taken care of anything that risks his well-being. He doesn't want to lose the life he has formed for himself. So do you think that his trust in Will is genuine, or another form of manipulation, or something else?
Both.
Both, yeah, same. It's both.
Expand on that.
So he's definitely like he is infatuated with Will. So he's definitely finding it like he wants Will in his life. He wants to place his trust in Will. Unfortunately, Abigail kind of like I feel bad for Hannibal in this case, because it's probably made it harder for both him or maybe it made it easier for both for Hannibal to manipulate Will into being friends or more for him. But at the same time, he wants to trust Will, but also at the same time, he manipulates everyone around him. So he's clearly, he has a strategy. He has something that he wants from Will. He's going to get it in his own manipulative way, and at the same time, he really wants to be friends with Will. The line from the start of the episode where after Will turns up at his door, and then the line towards the end of the Will, you're both fathers now of Abigail. So yeah, which is daddy trapping, daddy trapping, baby trap.
I like daddy trap.
Daddy trap. Daddy trap.
The whole series is a daddy trap. Yeah, I feel like making, assumptions. I feel like for Hannibal to be how he is, I would assume that he would have a certain mindset of no one knows me, no one understands me, even if I make, connections and bonds, people can, abuse that. I can't trust anyone. I have to look out for myself and only myself if I want to continue doing what I'm doing, which is surviving by eating in the way that I want to and whatever. It's a serious thing because it's a crime. So I feel like he's probably conditioned himself to always, fend for himself, be on his one. He can't really have connections with anyone. No one will understand him, all of this stuff. And anything that he does create in that way is performative, because it's him securing sort of alibis in a way, and sort of securing a place within the communities that he's in. I think maybe meeting Will and basically Abigail now is sort of like broken that a little bit for him, maybe. So I feel like he is trusting that a little bit, or he's done this before and he knows exactly what he's doing, and giving someone that kind of information and allowing them to think that they have a deeper connection with him than what they initially did is also a form of manipulation. Like being like, oh yeah, you know this about me, it's a really bad thing, it's illegal, I shouldn't have done it, and you're not going to tell anyone about it, this is a secret between us. And he has a bit of a position of manipulation because Will confides in him and feels very supported by him. The whole paddle thing, it probably took a lot for Will to have that connection in the first place, so he probably feels like, if I get rid of him, then who the fuck am I going to have to rely on? Like, I have this special connection with him in a way that I can't with anyone else. Because someone I could potentially wants to fucking study my brain. So I feel like for him it's like I either lose my support and I go crazy, or I keep this support and I keep a little white lie. I think it's both. I think it's both very manipulative but also maybe a bit of genuine as well, because I feel like maybe it's just the way that it's interpreted to us, and therefore, it's working, and that's what the kind of whole point of the show is, and the whole dynamic of the show is to make us feel that it's different with Will.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe that's the point. But I do think there is an element of both. Definitely manipulative. I think it's always going to be manipulative when it comes to Hannibal. I think it's never not going to be. Even if it is genuine. So I think maybe there is a little bit of genuine, like, oh, I do trust him a bit, or I know that he can trust, or I know that he won't cross me for now, or I know that I can control him to make him think that he can trust me. I think there'll always be an underlying, I think there'll always be an underlying controlling element to it, because it can't ever not be. It can't just be purely genuine.
Yeah, you hit on another point there as well, which I will ask to get Shaira's input as well, which is why does Will go along with it?
I believe Will goes along with it because, like I mentioned during the watch, that it's that Hannibal's a paddle for him. Like without Hannibal, Melisa mentioned, without Hannibal, he's going to stray far from himself. And also, I think it's just a friendship that he's friends with Hannibal. He doesn't want to kind of ruin that friendship. And even though it's kind of strained now, also, like, I think he's still in full denial. Like, he wants to believe Abigail is as good of a person as he believes she is to be. And obviously even if he knew that, I think even if he knew that Abigail lured those girls, I believe that he would still be in the situation because he's an empathetic person. He would be like, actually, I see what's happened here. I see that Hobbs has been very abusive towards you, and this situation isn't as black and white. You're not just a nail. You're not a you're not a criminal. You're not just a criminal. You're not a criminal here. You're a poor innocent girl who's been through a lot. Who's gone through it. So I think that's why he's gone through it. Not those two reasons, both for Abigail and both for his paddle Hannibal right now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you both when it comes to Will, but I'm always stuck in two minds about it with this as well. Because on the one hand, I'm like, he's so set on this concept that Jack has created that he's saving lives. The idea that he would overlook such a big thing as Abigail killing someone, that feels like a lot for him to overlook. It feels kind of contradictory to Will, but on the other hand, it's very clear that Hannibal has driven home this idea of killing her future would be just as bad. So I'm always like, I don't know. I think the combination. I think that if Hannibal hadn't like tended to this idea of being a kind of a rock for him, he wouldn't go along with it. I think the combination of Hannibal's manipulation and the Abigail situation is why he's allowing it. But it's complex.
Complex. The whole show is complex.
It is. I just wanted to like point out that there are kind of two interesting not really parallels, but this is just me rambling for the sake of it now because I love the show. So two things I really like about this episode are the two moments of touch. We have Alana hugging Will, which clearly has a big impact on him. Yeah. And we also have Hannibal initiating touch for the first time when he touches his shoulder. On the one hand, it's just like, ooh. But it's all he's doing is touching and slightly squeezing his shoulder. But because of the situation and the way that Will is not facing him and the way that Hannibal approaches him, there's a weird one-sided intimacy to it. And it's less so in this series and more so in the next series. But for me, I would say that this is the beginning of Hannibal sparingly using touch as a method of grounding Will. Because there are various different ways that you can ground someone when they're having mental health issues. And one of the big ones is the form of touch, because it brings you out of your brain and back into your body. And can make it easier for you to get out of your head. And I would say that this is part of Hannibal using that as kind of a method, either consciously and psychologically or affectionately.
Yeah.
And I would say keep an eye out for that, because it's something that he does more and it can make you kind of rethink a situation a little bit.
It was really cute.
I mean, from a shipping point of view, it's lovely because, and again, it's, you know, Hannibal is going to be the one to initiate things because Will is constantly in his own head, and it's nice to see Hannibal very slowly pushing past that boundary a little bit.
Yeah.
And I like that.
I like that. Yeah.
So let's go into favourites.
My favourite quote is just because I laughed at it. It was funny. I really enjoyed their banter. I don't pick quotes from them that often, and it's from Zella and his friend. I keep forgetting his name. I forgot.
Jimmy Price.
Jimmy Price. Like, oh, he's such a good character as well, and I keep forgetting Jimmy Price's name. I don't remember. I think it's just because Jimmy Price is such a generic name.
Yeah. Price and Zella.
Zella, I remember because Zella is a bit more different than Beverly. I remember because Beverly just is an easy name to remember. Jimmy Price is such an ununique name for.
You remember Beverly's surname?
Beverly Catch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just testing you. Carry on.
I don't know Zella's first name.
Brian.
Brian. Again, it's just a generic name. But I just liked her. Like if after a world's sickest jigsaw puzzle, my mum always said start a jigsaw with the corners. The heads are the corners, I guess. We've got too many corners. 7 graves, way too many heads. I just like the banter between them. That was quite
so good.
It was a funny banter. Also, because I laughed at the whole scene. Sorry, I
so
don't know
funny.
why I laughed at like the body pole. I laughed a lot at in this scene, and I felt bad about laughing at Will, but you know, I laughed at Will.
So cruel.
So cool.
Wait, no, I need to now take a moment. I haven't done this, and I said I was going to. No, let me call out how good Hugh Dancy is in this episode, okay? How dare you laugh? When he says, I'm not being abused, is one of the best line performances ever, and then afterwards when he says, I know. That whole bit, absolutely phenomenal. Love him. Carry on.
It was a really good thing, but like it was both funny to me, but also nervous. I was like, whoa, you are so close. Just let yourself rest. But yeah, predictions. I don't know. I think what
about favourite moment?
Oh yeah, favourite moment. Favourite moment for prediction. Yes, sorry. Favourite moment of this scene. I can't remember it, so I'm going to go with my second favourite. My second favourite was the scene with Alana and Will. Yes, it was contentious, but god damn, that boy needed a hug, and I'm so glad he got a hug. Like, that was why I was like, finally, someone give him a hug. Give that poor man a hug. I keep calling him a boy, sometimes a man. But yeah, that's all. He keeps acting to the boy. Boy, understand your emotions. Understand what you're going through. Freaking take a break. Work on a boat. Work on a boat. Work on some engines. Rest up. Predictions for this for the next, like, I think contentious. I think the whole situation with Abigail coming will figuring out, well, letting himself figure out Abigail killed Nicholas will be a bit of a contentious time for him and Hannibal. So if that relationship's going to be strained, I feel like so I think it's going to get closer to revealing her motives, at least to kind of out Abigail. And then also I feel like we're gonna see, like, we've seen Honey collect his cannibal daughter, collect his cannibal husband. He now seems to collect his cannibal wife Alana, and generally rebuild his cannibal ring.
My favourite quote, I've got two, because I'm naughty and I don't go by the rules, is when Hannibal says, "You're my friend, Will." I was like, oh, because it just feels like there's double meaning to it. I just feel like, but you're my partner, babe. I'm going to care about you. I felt like it was a little drop of that to be like, test the waters, because he was thinking so much. And last episode, he just sort of like slipped it in without even consulting him, or for what we know anyway. And was just like, "Oh yeah, you're my friend, Will." And he was just sort of like looking, like, you know, the eyes emoji when they're looking at the side. I feel like he was just doing that, looking at Will like, "Are you going to say anything? Are you going to correct me? Are you going to say my other friends? What's happening? What are you thinking?" I thought that was really funny. And then the other quote was old matey in the chair when he was like, "They never see me coming. Oh no, they never saw me coming unless I wanted them to see me coming." And I said in our watch together, me when I was single. Swiftly on, my favourite moment is the daddy to daughter moment. All I've put down is moment. Daddy's plural to daughter moment about book to Abigail. So I just thought it was very funny. It was like watching it felt like a bit of a comic relief. We were watching a bit of like a sitcom with the young daughter being told off by her two fathers, and they were both being like very parental, being like, "Now, Abigail, you can't write a book because you know this young lady doesn't know what she's doing." Like, Hannibal was like, "Oh, she's dangerous." It's like they're proper having a go at sort of like being like, "No, darling, you can't do this." I just thought it was very funny. Very sweet moment of daddies said no to their widow daughter.
Cute.
Yeah. And predictions. I said it earlier. I think that we will have whether it's the next episode or further episodes on, if I'm allowed to do that.
Oh yeah.
I think we will find out a sort of revelation to why Abigail's dad did what he did. I think there's something else that's niggling my brain of like, there's one more little piece to the puzzle that kind of tells us the whole story as to why he was doing this, why he felt the need that he was like, if it's Will's prediction of like, oh, he's so obsessed with his daughter, he doesn't want to lose her, so I'm gonna go kill some people that look like her. I guess that could be it, but I kind of feel like there's got to be a defining moment that kind of either says that's true or a bit of a plot twist, which I think maybe I want a plot twist to happen, or I'm just leaning towards that might be it. There might be a sort of revelation that happens and we're just like, oh, okay. Maybe that's within Abigail. Maybe I think there's still more that she's not saying to anyone because, you know, she's a smart girl. She's not trusting anyone. And as we know, she's not as easy to manipulate. So I think there is going to be a bit more of something that we find out about that at some point. And yay, sexy time.
Don't worry for a moment. I was like, I know Pride Month is over, but she's gonna say it, right?
Oh yeah. It's not just for Pride Month, baby. Gay sex is every day of the year. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So, 4 favorite quotes. I also had 2.
Ooh.
And one of them was Melissa. So I also had that I'm your friend, Will. I don't care about the lives you save. I care about your life.
That was a really good quote.
The other quote I had, which it's very unrelated to sort of everything else, but it's a quote I really like in isolation, in how it kind of explains serial killers, especially in the Hannibal world. So Larry Wells says at the end, "I had every reason to kill the others. They just had no reason to die."
Uh-oh.
I think that's a very good line that kind of explains, in a way, at least in fiction, the thought behind killing people. Of just, you have a reason, that doesn't mean it's the victim's fault. Or that the victim did anything, and I really like that. My favourite moment, unsurprisingly, is Will waking up in Hannibal's office. And just that entire scene, which I've already rambled about, and I love it, and I think it's one of Hugh Dancy's best performances in this season, and it's beautiful. Woo! And he's just so panicky and sad, and also Hannibal's so firm for the first time.
Yeah.
My...
I'm so sorry I laughed at him.
My next episode prediction is that Will Graham signs up to LiveJournal to keep track of his hallucinations.
Oh.
Now, for my sign-off today, there are no puns.
Oh.
And it's not really, it's just a teaser, and it's only 3 words. And my sign-off is, we find out. Fate and Circumstance is an independent podcast brought to you by Felix Fanfaron Fern, Melisa Suzan, and Shaira Bambi. You can find and follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at HannibalPod. We are fans of the show NBC's Hannibal and do not own the rights to any of the materials discussed, merely appreciators. The music used in this podcast is Tchaikovsky's Op. No. 40 Waltz by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Thanks for listening.
Pardon me, sorry.